up? Welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk Podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. In today's session, we have Mr. Trey Hudson, and we're going to be having a conversation. We really don't know where this conversation is going to go, man. Me and Trey hooked up on LinkedIn. We've been talking back and forth. He's been in the industry for a minute. I've been doing this deal for a minute, so we'll see. I mean, the premise is internet, but I don't know. We'll see where we land. What up, Trey? How you doing, man?
Hey, Herb, what's going on, man? So excited to be on the show today. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited as well. I think it's going to be a good conversation, and let's kick things off, man. Start us off with your background, dude. Tell us about your experience.
So I started in the car business, roughly probably about 23 years ago, but I'm kind of I like to say a little bit old school mixed in with the new school, a lot probably more new than old. But I remember the days of Sharpies and no internet and customers wanting, their payoff for their trade-in. So I've kind of made a full, to how we have it now with technology and enhancements and customers with, armed with a lot more knowledge and power than they've ever had before. So I've kind of held every role in a dealership on the variable side. Haven't not too much experience with service, although I do understand how service works, but started on sales, worked my way up to a sales manager, and then for a short time was a general manager of a Ford store. But currently now I'm a sales manager at a Toyota store, and things are going pretty well.
Right on, dude. So I love the background there and what you said about the transition between the old and the new, because my first question is about efficient market, right? And buyers and sellers having the same information to a certain degree. How has that premise in itself changed things, in your opinion, from back in the old days to now? Meaning, right, customers walk in with 14 plus hours of research. Sometimes, in some cases, they may know more about that vehicle than the person that's supposed to be the expert, right? And so how has that changed things? But more importantly, how can we leverage that to our advantage?
It's funny because when I hear that question, what I think about is this actually, to me, it's made things a lot easier than it was before. If I kind of think about when I first started, customers came in, but, they had no clue. I mean, they knew they were here to look at a car, but, there was no YouTube, there wasn't Google, there wasn't Kelley Blue Book. So, I mean, they had to literally visit, 3, 4, or 5 dealerships to get a good idea for the vehicle that they wanted to buy. And, now you look at it and they can do so much research online that when the customer walks into the dealership, and we just had a sales meeting about this the other day, is that I think the customer is just looking for validation. They've read the reviews on the car and they know it's probably the one they want, but they just want to make sure when they arrive at the dealership that they drive it and make sure. And so, I think it's our job to just not really mess it up. There's no real reason for us to overcomplicate it. I think sometimes we want to box the customer into our steps of the sale, when a lot of times now customers are coming in the middle of the steps of the sale. And really, we just need to kind of just, listen to them and kind of walk them to the finish line.
Yeah, man, I love that. I've actually mentioned this story on the podcast, but I'm going to do it again. I had a conversation at this point. It's probably a couple years or maybe a year old. But I was having a conversation with the GM at a Toyota store, oddly enough. And he said the same thing you just said. He was like, listen, at this point, the customer goes to 1.2 dealerships, I think is the number. So if they show up at my store, that's a buyer. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of the message that I tell my guys. It's like, listen, if that customer shows up, they already chose us. So all you have to do is just remove the obstacles for them to buy. That's it. It's simple. They're already prepared. And so I agree with you, man. And I think it's a perspective. I think that's where things kind of fall. Is we have the wrong perspective. We don't understand, or we fail to recognize how critically important that visit is in today's landscape. You know what I mean? Right. So okay, cool. So what about what about the internet itself, man? Let's kind of develop that thought, like 50,000 view. Tell me about your take on it, but most importantly, in your opinion, has it changed things for the better or for the worse?
I think it's changed things for the better. I remember hearing about internet, and we first started working about, we started looking at customers that were submitting online leads, and there was a question at the dealership about, those leads aren't worth your time. They don't generate any kind of growth. And we used to kind of just push them to the back, and we focus more on the customer that's walking in through the door, just because, they're there, they're standing on the showroom floor, and they're like, hey, help, sell me a car. And, slowly we watched the internet buyer, and you just spoke about it a little bit earlier, that, they've done their research online. They've gone to all these multiple websites. And so when that customer is submitting that online inquiry, we have to understand that they mean business, and that they're looking for someone that's going to listen to them, follow up with them, and give them the information that they're looking for. And I just really think if we don't recognize that, and that we only focus on the walk-in traffic, and we don't necessarily come up with a digital strategy, that we're going to lose a lot of business, or, at best case, we're not going to see the growth in our business.
Yeah, man, I agree. And I definitely want to develop this. And we were kind of hitting on it before we started recording here, but I totally agree with that. And I think that we're missing that a lot of the miss happens on the reporting side of things, like on the trackability rather. You know what I mean? Like a lot of us in the industry don't even understand our, like I ask dealers all the time, man, like, hey, do you know what's your average website traffic? Like, just users a month. What's the average? No clue.
Right.
You know what I mean? How many of those users that go to your website would you say percentage wise convert to an SRP? And out of that, how many turn into a VDP? No idea. You know what I mean? Simple stuff like that, dude, if you don't know that, you know what I mean? Like you're just not prepared. You know what I mean?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Maybe this would be a good leave behind for the audience as far as just some basic metrics that we need to be looking at, because the other thing is that it gets really complex, right? And a lot of us are not, a GM. I don't expect a GM to be this, technologically advanced, into all the metrics. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's not what he's there for. He's there to conduct the team, to put the right people in the right places and all that stuff. But what's some of the stuff? What are some of the metrics rather that they should be looking at on a at least monthly basis?
I think, obviously we'll look at one. How many leads do we actually get? And I think the one good thing about e-leads is that, or website submittals, whether you get them from a third party or if you get them directly from your website, is that you can count those, right? It's hard to fake those numbers. So we know we got 300 submittals or we got 600, whatever your number is. Sometimes we ask the question of how many people did we have walk through the dealership today? Well, you're going to get a bunch of random numbers because that's really kind of a hard number to track. But internet, like you said, with the VDPs, we can track that. The impressions, we can see that. If a customer is liking something that we're posting on Facebook, or if they're liking something we're posting on Instagram, we can see that customer's engagement. We can see that our message is hitting with our customer base. So for one of the first things I make sure that I want to look at is the internet leads. And then also, we'll check sources, where they're coming from. Obviously, I think that the dealer's website should be their number one, not only lead volume, but also closing rate. And then at our store, one of the things we really want to focus on is, are we connecting with these customers? If we had X amount of leads, how many of them did we get on the phone? How many either responded to us by, phone, email, or text? And then once we find out that number, then we want to see, were we able to convert those customers to appointments? And then, you can track your show rate. And like I said, all this information, whether you're using a good CRM tool, can walk you through a customer's, not only their buying process, but it can also let you know if your processes at the dealership need to be, honed in, fixed, or tweaked. And that's the one thing that I do like about internet is, like I said, it's hard for you to fake those numbers.
Yeah, and the trackability. I to me, that's huge. Just we can see. Digital has a footprint, right? It has a digital footprint that we just never had before. Now we can't get to the specific, right? We can't go to the specific individual. Although with Facebook these days we can retarget those folks.
We can. Yeah.
but dude, I mean, it's there. The conversions are there. Like for me, one simple one, right? And it's funny because I just posted a video on LinkedIn about this today in particular. And it's the source medium report in your acquisitions tab in Google Analytics, right?
Mhm.
Top 10 sources that are driving traffic to my website on a month-to-month basis. Breaking that down between SRP and VDP views, and then taking a look at that number. Look at the 100% users and break that down. How many of those converted to SRP? How many of those converted to VDP? That's huge, man. Cool. And you can see it. You can actually see it. Like if a lot of the decision makers were looking at these numbers, their mind would be blown, right? Because you can see how much more engagement a VDP has over an SRP and over overall users. Lower bounce rate. More time spent on the site. They're looking at more pages per session. If you're setting your goals in your Google Analytics, which I highly, highly recommend that you do, you can see the pace of conversion there, and you can see how fast and quickly these customers are actually converting to the goals that you've set, whether it be a submission or a VDP view, et cetera, whatever you want to kind of measure. And so, yeah, man, it just blows my mind that we're not taking a deeper look. And then here's what's real crazy, right? We have this expectation, and we put all this responsibility on third-party sites. Oh, you guys are not doing your job. You know what I mean? You're not selling cars. I'm just like, what? Like if you looked at your sources, you would see how little impact those third-party sites have on driving traffic to your website. It's just so minimal. True. You know what I mean?
And I was going to say one thing to add to that. The other day, I was actually on ours, and I was able to, it's actually telling, because we're talking about VDPs. Well, I was actually able to see not only the VDPs, but it's telling me the actual cars that customers are clicking on. And so it actually tells me like the top. I went over this with my sales team the other day. It's like these are the top 4 cars in our not in our market, not in our region, at our actual dealership that customers are interested in. And so what that, it's a training. It's like, just to make sure these top 4 cars that we're definitely dialed in and we know what we're talking about. And then also it helped us with ordering, because I know floor plan is an expense and we want to make sure that we're turning inventory. Well, I know if I'm getting X amount of VDPs on 4Runners in this case, and they're like my number one, well, you know what? I want to make sure that I got 4Runners on the lot and that I'm prepared for all this traffic that I'm getting digitally.
Yeah, I agree with that to a point, and here's what I mean. Like, I totally agree. You gotta know which vehicles are driving the activity, right? Because it's a hook, right? Those are the cars that are going to bring people in, or they're going to get people to call the dealership and all that stuff. But I also think that we don't do as good a job with those low performing units. And for example, it was Cobalt at the time, so CDK or whatever. I don't know what they've evolved into, but
I think it's CDK now. Right?
Yeah, but they did a study back in my Auto Trader days, I think 2016 or so, and the metric was 30 VDPs. That was like the sweet spot, if I remember correctly. So that the premise was that if a vehicle had 30 VDPs, they'd spend 40 to 50% less time on the lot, which to me that's huge, right? I mean, so that being the case, after 30 VDPs, now you're into diminishing returns, right? Where you're overspending for marketing. And that's what I worry about. I worry about that as an industry, we're starting to pay too much attention on those high VDP units. And we're so focused on the views of that inventory that we forget that we have a fleet of cars that are getting no love. They're getting no activity. They're low scarcity units, and those are the units that you want to spend a lot more money on and get really creative on how you market those vehicles, because those are the cars that are going to make the difference, right? Those are the cars. Like if you can get good at that strategy, I would do carousel ads for those vehicles on Facebook, and any engagement that those cars get, I would retarget that customer with an offer. Because it shows engagement, right? If somebody clicks on it or whatever, goes to the VDP, whatever, depending on the rule that you set for Facebook, then you can retarget them with an offer. That they clicked on it for a reason. They looked at it for a reason. So I don't know, man. I feel like we're spending too much time on these high engagement units, and we forget about the units that are not performing as well. So I'd caution dealers to really take a look at that and have a strategy for both. So I don't know. Do you agree? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think sometimes you can, sometimes we can get a little bit blinded by what we think is hot, and we do that a lot in the car business. If we think something's turning, then it's like, let's get more of them, and then all of a sudden, like you said, we've overlooked that that slow turning model that all of a sudden got hot, and then it was just like, oh, we lost focus on it. So yeah, I can totally agree with what you're saying there.
Right on, man. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the internet, because it's not just, I mean, the internet is a very big concept, right? So that there's many, many ways. So, kind of switching it a little bit, let's get into the social media side of things. So I've been a big proponent of social media in our industry for a minute. I love seeing the changes that I'm seeing. I see a lot more engagement than I did when I first started doing content and all these things on all these different platforms. What's your take on it? Are you using it? Is your team using it? Do you promote it within your dealership? Tell me your perspective on that.
So about, I want to say it was probably about really a year ago. I went to a training, and they were talking about video, and they were telling us how important that was and how we wanted to kind of stand out. And what I mean by video, it's just basically when the customer submits that online lead, how are we responding to them? And then, of course, you have a sea of phone calls and a sea of emails. And then certain times that when that video goes out to that customer, personalized video, we mention their name, and, sometimes it's a walk around on the car, that I think we get a lot more engagement from that customer, because in their mind, they're like, wait, this person actually took the time to send me a personalized video on the car that I was interested in. And so my team is utilizing that. And then a few of them do have their own personalized Facebook accounts, their business ones, where they're out, posting pictures of customers when they buy cars. They're running specials. They're being active there. And then, of course, we have an Instagram page that we're really starting to explore now with, a lot more pictures of our cars, activities we have going on at the dealership. And I think that and then the last part of that is Facebook. But our Facebook, we're in a smaller community, and we really like to focus our Facebook on the community and things that our dealership is doing within the community. So we've kind of utilized Facebook for that. Instagram is more like pictures of cool, our product, customers like it. We're up in a mountain town, so they want to see the lifted trucks, the 4Runners in the snow, and those kind of things. But really, what I really think sets us apart is that we do utilize video when we're responding to customers on an online inquiry.
Dude, I love that. I mean, could you share like who you use? Are you guys using CoVideo, or what's your?
Sure. Yeah, so we are. We're using CoVideo, and one of the things I absolutely like about CoVideo is not only can you email. Obviously it's clarity when you record the video. It's not grainy. Yeah. I don't know how long you can record a video, but we do try to. We trial and error. We've learned to try to keep them anywhere between 30 seconds or under. And sometimes if the guys are doing a walk around, that may run about a minute, because we know that customers are busy, and so we can kind of hold their attention for so long. But another thing that we've noticed about CoVideo is that you can obviously email, but you can also send the link directly to the customer's cell phone. And so we've had a lot of success with that, just being able to shoot the personalized video. Customer
like
having a hard time. I'm sorry, what was that, Herb?
Do you mean via text?
Yes, via text. So, we're having a hard time getting the customer on phone, or, they're not necessarily responding to our emails. So we're able to send that video directly to their cell phone in the form of a text. And, they just press one button, and press one button and the video pops up on their screen. So, CoVideo has been extremely helpful for us.
Yeah, hey, CoVideo, if you're listening to this, hit me up, man. This is like the third vlog I'm doing you guys this season. But dude, I totally agree, man. I freaking love CoVideo. I think they're awesome. And to add to what you just said, which all of those are amazing reasons to do it, but the branding part of it, right, where you can put the links and stuff on there, and you know what I mean? And you can route customers directly to your inventory, send them to your website, and they gives you like 4 or 5 different buttons that you can put on the actual frame of the video. Dude, like, why are we not doing that like regularly? I mean, video is like, is like the quickest way to break the ice in today's landscape, in my opinion. And then when the customer shows up, they've seen your face, they've heard you talk, they've seen a little bit of your personality, and there's an instant connection. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, because I mean, we have, I've seen salespeople, but we also have a manager video that goes out to customers, basically like a, appointment confirmation. And, it never fails. I could be walking across the showroom floor and somebody stop me and say, "Hey, Trey." And I kind of look at them, "Yes, how are you?" And they're like, "Hey, I got your video." And it's just, whenever the customer says that, it's just like, in your mind, you think it works.
Yes.
And another example, this just happened 3 days, probably not 3 days, probably about a week ago. Customer, I overheard him with the salesperson, and the customer came in and he says, "Hey, the only reason I'm here is because you took the time to send me a personalized video. I felt obligated to visit you here at the store." Like, literally, the customer is saying, "I am here because you sent me a personalized video, and it was so different than everything else that I got from, all the other stores that I inquired in, that I had to stop in and see you." And the customer left in a car. So I thought that it's so powerful to send video when everyone else is sending the same message. It's just our goal to try to figure out how can we stand out to that customer and grab that customer's attention.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, man. Differentiate yourself. And I've said this over and over and over again, and I'm about to say it one more time. It's very easy to differentiate yourself in just the way that we sit today, because everybody's doing the same thing. So something so that you would feel like it's so insignificant, like sending a video, can make all the difference in the world, because everybody else that they're getting that are hitting up that same prospect are doing it pretty much the same way, right? CRM, preset emails, or BDC calls, right? So an email or something via text, as long as it's legal. I mean, I just want to emphasize that, because I know that's just make sure. But as long as it's legal, I mean, that can make such a difference. You can make such a difference. You know what I mean? And then especially think about what you're selling here. It's not like, I mean, yes, in some cases you do have that one-off vehicle that people are going to come by, even if you treat them bad, just because of the car that it is, the mileage and they'll put up with it because that's that one rarity. But for a lot of the stuff that they can get anywhere else, dude, those little things, they add up, man. It makes a big, huge difference.
It really does. I mean, and this, like you said earlier, I mean, it's just trying to figure out in this day and age, how can we stand out? And, we don't like to just send the customer one video. I mean, we do have a CRM process like most dealers, but, our videos run out, 7 days, 15 days. And the guys have, done some fun templates to send out to customers and keep it creative, and they change them, consistently. And you spoke about it earlier, but with co-video, we can actually change the backgrounds too. So if it's Christmas, you'll probably have a Christmas background. You'll have the links on the side. So, I mean, it's not plain. It's not simple. When the customer opens it up, it's alive. It's got a message, and it gets to the point.
Yeah, dude. So totally agree. So co-video, if you're listening, hit me up. Let's partner up, man, because I keep talking about you guys. Okay, so what about the personal branding side of it? Is that something that you guys encourage within your dealership? I've been hearing a lot about this deal where a lot of the dealers don't like that their salespeople take to social media and promote themselves as individuals. To me, that's insane. That's ludicrous. I don't understand why you would ever do that. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a policy within your store. If so, let's talk about that.
I think that goes back to kind of that old school, new school feel, where sometimes the old school in us is like, hey, we want to control as many variables as we possibly can. And I think as we start to get out into social media, we start to realize it's no holds barred out there. I mean, it's really hard to kind of control all those different variables because there's so many places that customers can get information from now. And so, yeah, we actually have salespeople that do have their social media accounts. They're separate from their, I do ask the guys, try to separate them from their personal accounts, just because sometimes what people post on their personal it could maybe sometimes, interfere with their business. But a lot of them have, like it has say salesperson at, our store. And I like those because it's just they build their business that way. They're expanding their business. They're building their repeat referral business from there. And I just don't think, or I'm sorry, I think that that's so much of a faster way to grow your business. I think when I first started, we were using, it's not that I'm that old, but I mean, it's just telling you how fast technology is changing. I mean, we were using Rolodex and calendars to try to build up our repeat and referral business. We were calling customers out of the phone book, to try to do that. Now now salespeople are able to do it through Facebook, Instagram, all these other social media sites, and they can build their repeat business up so much faster than we ever did before. So yeah, I mean, we absolutely encourage our people, as long as they're responsible, to use their social media, to grow their business, because in return, it's growing our business.
Yeah, yeah, and just to clarify, I agree with that. Like you got to be careful as far as the personal and the professional, right? Because you could post something that people are going to misconstrue or associate with the dealership, and you definitely don't want any of that stuff going on. But I would encourage the salespeople in particular to become authorities within their communities, and the fastest, quickest way to do that is through social media. Right. I mean, there's just you talked about the old days and the Rolodex and stuff. I remember those days, dude. The salespeople at the dealership, dude, that's what they did. And I just talked about this on I think it was 2 episodes ago. They would take a stack of business cards and they would go hit the streets. Like I remember those days, you know what I mean? But try hitting 100 or 200 people in a day doing that. Good luck, right? You can put a video together right now and put that out there, and you can get, if depending on your creativity and if you're willing to invest a little bit of dough in it, you can get 400, 500, 1,000, 2,000 people to look at it. So it just doesn't. I mean, you can't beat that. Plus again, and I know I already said this, but I'm going to say it one more time. The way they're going to see your face, they're going to see that it's different than what they're exposed to, and that within itself is a leg up. So
I mean, we used to tell, I still think the phone is still pretty powerful. I still think it's a strong way of getting a hold of customers. But we send an email blast out, and guess what's attached to it? It's a video. It's a personalized video from the salesperson, and he's sending it to his customer base, and he's trying to grow it. And it's just, it beats sometimes sitting there making 50 phone calls to your customer base when you can just, shoot a quick video and boom, get it out to 150, 200 people in less than 15 minutes?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Plus, not to mention, that's a good point, because now you're talking to customers that have already said yes to you, right? Customers that are in your DMS that either purchased from you or they service their vehicle there, which is, in my opinion, that's the cheapest prospect you can go after, right? Because you can send them an email for free pretty much at this point, and and they'll consume it, right? Because it's coming from a source that they trust. So
I mean, that's what I was going to say. It's like, what did it cost us? Like you just said, it cost us $0, to do that, and it's a great marketing strategy, and it works.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, I've had a lot of success, dude. I've had a lot of success with DMS customers, even direct mail, email, and phone calls to customers in your DMS. It's a lot harder to do when you're going after customers that don't have a relationship with you. To me, that's a waste. But a lot of the let me see if I can get this word out. Digitization that we have today. Yay, I did it. That we have today just allows us to get that right message in front of the right customer at the right time. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. Why are we not doing more of that stuff? So, what about evolution of the internet? Because that's something that I want to explore here really quick. And listen, I know this can go in so many different directions. I mean, now with the so-called AI and all these things, but how do you see it evolving, right? Because to a certain degree, it's kind of had its impact of this version or iteration of it. What's the next step?
It's kind of funny. I always listen to, or I shouldn't say always listen, but I listen to Gary Vee every now and then. And one of the things he always talks about is voice, and how important voice is going to be in the future, with Hey Alexa and Hey Google. And I'm always trying to figure out how is that going to impact our business as we move forward. And I guess to kind of answer your question, I really don't know. You know, I think we've gotten to a point now where it's just all about growing that social media presence and trying to figure out where this internet's going to go. I think it's kind of limitless in what it's going to be next, but I'm just not sure yet.
Yeah, I like that you touched on voice, because that's what I'm going to predict that. I'm going to put that down here and go on the record. But I think that's really the next evolution. Now, is it going to be Alexa type of a deal? I don't know, man. I mean, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday or the day before. I was watching this commercial, and it was this Apple TV. Was it Apple TV? I want to make sure I get this right. It was either Apple TV or was that Amazon Fire Stick or whatever. I think it's the Amazon Fire TV deal. Dude, but it was voice, right? It was all voice, 100% voice. And you're like, hey, I think it was Alexa, actually. Hey, Alexa, I want to see, and the commercial says Barry from HBO or something like that. And then it puts it in your, right. Yeah, puts the program on. And so I think that that's where we're going, man. I think that we're going to a place where it's all going to be voice. But here's where it gets really tricky, in my opinion. So I envision this, and maybe this is like far-fetched, but I don't care. I envision somebody like making breakfast, right? They're looking for a car, and they're like, hey, device, whatever, Alexa or whatever. I'm looking for a car. Give me some options. And they'll that's where it'll start, right? And it'll start naming options. But what's going to happen is after the third option, you'll be like, okay, I got it. Right. Yeah. So you're going to have to get really, really good at that stuff. You're going to have to get really, really good. Because just like we do now, we choose, I do anyway. I know a lot of people that just look at the top 3 when it comes to Google, right? You're either looking at the ads, depending on if you're in some sort of distress situation, or you're down to the first top 3 on the organic place. So that's going to be the competition, is who can get up there the fastest. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that a lot of us in this space, in this industry rather, we need to be learning that stuff now, right? So that when it comes and the switch is going to come, we're ready. We're versed in it. We know the language, and then we can implement strategies around it. Right. So anyway, that's my vision. We'll see what happens. But no, I agree. I mean, who knows, dude? Things are moving so fast, so quickly. It's just it could be anything, right?
But I do know that kind of starts them down that funnel. When they do start saying, hey, hey Google, pick me the top 3 compact SUVs, and it gets them started, and they kind of. But I still think all roads, hopefully, are going to always lead back to us at the dealer level.
Yeah, and if you think about this, right? So we are, this is too deep. Maybe it's because I'm having beers while we're doing this session. When you think about it, we are already there's a mechanical, not mechanical, but there's a digital version of ourselves, right? Of our humanity in our phones, right? Those are extensions of us.
Right.
And we are consuming that information, when you think about it, really, really slowly, because, we're doing everything with our thumbs. And so that, we got to search stuff. But when we have that device, we are significantly smarter than without it, right? Like you're significantly smarter with your phone. You are a significantly smarter consumer. You're a significantly smarter shopper with your device, because you can look stuff up, right? Mm-hmm. And you can consume that information and instantaneously become more intelligent about a product or a car or whatever.
Right.
So when we get to a place where it's either voice or it's some in some way, shape, or form direct download sort of a deal, where we don't have to type in, or it's kind of guessing what our searches or whatever, what our needs are, and that information just starts coming to us quicker and quicker and quicker. Right. That's when it's going to get really, really scary. You know what I mean? So yeah. I just feel like voice is going to be the way to go, because it'd be the quickest way to kind of consume that information, in my opinion. But
you and kind of just quickly, when you were bringing that up about using our phones and scrolling through them, and I just had an example just yesterday, or yeah, last night. I mean, we had a customer that was literally at another dealership thinking about buying a brand new vehicle. The salesperson leaves him, and he, walks up to the sales desk, I guess, is getting numbers. And the customer is scrolling through Car Gurus, finds a car that we have on our lot, and is literally calling us on a pre-owned car while he's negotiating on a new car at a dealership about 150 miles away from us. And I just when you really think about that, how fast they're able to do that,
Yes.
it's just amazing now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's what I mean. Like we are the shoppers that we have today are significantly just better and smarter than we've ever faced because of that, because of the
Right.
technology.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about the competition side of things, right? So I love trying to find nuggets and things that we can leave behind for the audience. So quickly, if you can give us 2-3 internet strategies, how can we leverage that to get more sales and steal market share away from our competitors?
I was thinking about this question. Actually, the question you asked me, I was thinking about it earlier, like kind of prepping myself for this conversation we're going to have. And I was thinking if I walked into a dealership, you know, today and I could spend no money and someone told me, hey, how can you grow my business? And the first place I would probably look is their internet department and just assume that lead volume stayed consistent and never changed. And if I had to focus on a couple of things that I would put in place, process based, not any kind of retargeting, not yet, not any kind of, additional spends, just focusing on what we have right now. The first thing we talked about earlier would definitely be video, utilizing a video strategy to, follow up with leads, video walkarounds to engage the customer would be where I would start. The second is I've noticed some CRMs, because the dealer hasn't set them up, generally has no follow up after day 2 for an internet lead. And I know as I say that, some people are probably thinking, how in this day and age can that happen? But I just saw it happen just recently. Day 2, literally there was no follow up from an e-lead. So if I was a salesperson, I made sure that I did my follow up on day 1, and it was just up to me from day 2 on to make sure that I follow up with that customer. So that would be another that I would follow up with. So we'll look at the CRM on our follow up strategy. And then I guess as I'm sitting here thinking about 3 would just be the phone. And I know that, we say foam and I think it sounds like, it should be so easy. But if we look at what we're doing with phone ups now, are we, actually making sure that we're trying to convert that phone up into an appointment? Or we even, do we even have anybody even answering the phone? I called a couple of dealerships the other day looking to do a dealer trade, and they were big stores. I couldn't even get anybody to answer the phone. So I worry when I see things like that because I'm thinking, what are our customers thinking on the other end? And so those would be the top 3 that I would focus on: video, CRM follow up, and then 3, the phone. And make sure that I have people that are in my internet department that have no problem picking up the phone and making the multiple dials that we need to make to get a hold of the customer.
Yes, sir. Totally agree with that. Thanks, man. Those are all great ones for sure. I love the phone run because it's something that we take for granted. I think a lot of us within the industry, but that's still, dude, when you think about it, I'd rather, I don't know, man. Let me see it before I say this. Yeah, I'd rather get called than get an email. You know what I mean? I mean, I much prefer a text message, but I'm a millennial, and I mean, that's just how we communicate. But
Right.
I much rather get a call than an email. So I think that we're not doing as much of that as we should, and some departments more than others. Like service, I see that a lot. Like, how can a service department not have a BDC in today's age? It's just I just don't get that. But anyway.
And you mentioned it when you talked about the texting, and I think a lot of and not to say anything about any particular generation, but obviously when I started, we only had the phone. I mean, cell phones were just coming out, and surely they weren't texting or searching the internet. But now a lot of people are, that younger generation is more comfortable with texting, and I think somewhere along the line that I am. You sometimes get worried about our phone skills at the dealership level, and if those are going to start suffering as we go. But like you said, I much rather the phone ring than any of the other options that I have available right now, because that's a live customer on the phone who I can somehow influence and hopefully get them to the next step, which is to visit the dealership.
Yeah, man. If you get them on the line, right, dude, and you're having a conversation with them, that's there's a lot of value there. There's a lot of
It's
value
huge.
there. So yeah, and the other thing, and I mentioned this recently as well, but I mentioned that I'm a millennial, but I'm 40 years old, dude. So if we're thinking about millennials as little kids,
Right.
18-year-old, then we're really making a lot of mistakes. So, um,
Yeah, true.
but okay, dude, we're getting close to that time. Um, I did want to ask one more question here before I give you an opportunity to tell us about a little bit more about you and how we can connect. Um, I want to talk about AI really quick and how that applies to the internet. And in particular, are you guys using anything that's considered AI effectively? And if so, can you share with us what it is? And the reason why I'm for this episode is for season 4, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to talk a lot about AI in this season because I myself am trying to learn, because I get so many different theories, so many different vendors talking about it, so many conflicting information out there. What's your take on it? Are you using anything, and is it working?
So, I had a few months ago, I had a meeting with a company that uses AI, and actually they were going to work for us in regards to lead follow up. We actually didn't sign up with them. We just wanted to do a little better job of dialing our own processes and making sure that we had those things dialed in. Because sometimes you can sign up for that, but um, I think you're if you have a broken wheel, you're probably looking for that solution to fix it, and sometimes it doesn't. It just creates another broken wheel for you. So we have not necessarily signed up with them yet. And honestly, that's probably the only version of AI that we would probably be using outside of, we do start our texting that, with AI. I think we use Goobagoo. So if customers are, have questions, the chat will start AI, and then a member of our team can take it over in the middle.
Right on. Okay. But do you foresee a place for that in the dealership, maybe a couple of years down the line? Or I mean, what are your predictions on that?
I do. I think as the technology gets better, I think it's something and as customers get to the point where they want information from us so fast that we're unable to keep up with it, I think at that point is a perfect time for us to start looking at AI options and what's available out there and what can help us, with that customer that. And I guess the reason why I was thinking about this is, like, now you go to Starbucks and, you probably visited Starbucks 50 times, but that one time they were 5 minutes late with your coffee order. All of a sudden you're thinking in your head, Starbucks is just going downhill. And I think that, that's how we can use AI to make sure that we don't have those issues. So when customers, like I said, want that information, they want it now and they can't wait, AI gets the information to them right away. And I think that can be an advantage for us.
Dude, I love that you bring that up, because I'm having this conversation with my clients all the time. And it's like, dude, if you think the so-called millennial are bad, wait, wait
Right.
until that generation comes that has purchased everything online. Everything has been by pushing a button, and that's how they're going to want everything. And they were going to want it quicker than ever before. Like, there was this comedian. I don't know if anybody watches well, I'm sure people watch Netflix here, and I don't remember the dude's name, but it's brand new, and the guy's talking about, I want it now. I want to press the button on Amazon, and I want it in my hand. You know what I
That's right.
mean?
That's right.
So it's just, that's where it's heading, folks. So if you're if you're not ready to offer that experience, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, it's gonna be a rough time. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's been awesome, man. Thank you so much. It's been a really good conversation. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. I want to give you a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself. How can we get in touch with you? If you have anything coming up, let us know. And yeah, we'll put all your information in the show notes too, so people can reach out. But yeah, man, let us know.
Yeah. So first off, I can't thank you enough, for giving me the opportunity to come on the show and talk a little bit about the car business. I'm very passionate about it. I've been doing it for a while, but I wake up in the morning and I like the growth of the business. I like where it's heading. For a while they're kind of a little bit of worried about it, but it doesn't scare me that customers are getting information now faster. I think it only makes our job a little bit easier, just as long as we don't mess it up. But we just have to be prepared so thanks again. Give me this platform. This is actually the first podcast I've ever done. So It's been great. It's been very informational, and I've listened to past episodes and was super excited to be on here. But I think right now, if people are looking for me, I did start LinkedIn, and that's actually how we were able to connect. And right now, that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to see on that platform what I can do with it, where it can go. And yeah.
Right on, man. Hey, dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome. There is one question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years and why?
We were sitting down and, everybody's talking about, I think we even just talked about it a little bit earlier about wanting it and wanting it right now. We talked about Amazon. At times we talk about Carvana. And who would have thought that customers could literally buy a car from their home? And so I think as we progress as dealers and as technology progresses, I think that's where it's heading. I think eventually, I still think that there's going to be customers that are going to want to test drive the car, are going to want to know, the feel of the wheel seals the deal, as we say. But I think the next 5-6 years, we're going to get to be a point where customers are literally buying cars from the living room. And we're delivering them to their front doorsteps. And the reason why I say we're going to be delivering, us the dealer, is because other disruptors in our industry are basically going to make us do that, are going to force our hands. And the ones that want to get better and grow are going to be the dealers that are progressive and want to deliver that experience to the customer. So that's where I think we're heading in the next few years. Vehicle delivery, customer in the living room, never really having to leave their house to purchase a vehicle.
Right on, dude. Yeah, man. I mean, that's certainly seems to be what the framework of the future is looking like. But we'll see. Time will tell. Dude, thank you so much again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Loved your insights on this deal. I'm excited to share this one. If you haven't done so, please make sure to share this episode. Share this podcast with somebody that can take this information back to the dealership and implement in their day-to-day. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, and we'll talk later. Problem in your store. This show might help you fix it. Though we did not set the bar. Nope. We're just trying to lift it with new automotive knowledge. The talented and gifted.